I am in Sweden, where we are doing a piece. We've been in several countries in the last 24 hours. It's been kind of a whirlwind. We don't even really know what time it is, especially here in Sweden, where the sun doesn't really ever seem to rise. But we have been documenting what's going on here in Sweden. This is probably the most tolerant place as far as immigration in the world. And back in the 1980s, they decided that they wanted to open their arms, unlike the rest of Europe, and they would allow people to come in, and they would give them free everything, including free lessons in Swedish. And they just expected people to assimilate and matriculate into Swedish citizens. What they didn't understand was there is no intention of becoming Swedish for most of these people. They're expecting another 90,000 Muslim immigrants before Christmas here in Sweden, and it is at a tipping point. In the next 10 years, the Swedish people will be the minority in this town or in this country, and they are going to be, they're currently being taught that there is no Swedish culture. That's what they're teaching their students. There is no inherent Swedish culture. And the Muslim culture is a culture that is deep and rich with meaning, but not the Swedish culture. Sweden has gone from this really amazing country in the last few years, and a very safe country 10 years ago, very safe for women, in fact, one of the most enlightened for women, to a country that is now the rape capital of the world. 1 in 4 women in Sweden will be raped. It is astounding what is happening, and you're now starting to see the rise of fascism in countries like Sweden, where I've been reading many of the op-eds and different things as I was preparing to come here, and reading Facebook posts and things to the government here in Sweden, people begging them, saying, you don't understand, fascism is coming because you won't listen to the people. And we don't want to be fascist. We're Swedes. We don't want to go that way. But unless you do something, it's going to fall apart, and we are going to have no choice. And I think that's what's happening with Donald Trump. As I watch Donald Trump and what he's saying about rounding up Muslims or stopping all immigration, what he's saying here on stopping all immigration, putting a pause on immigration is not necessarily a very bad idea. Singling people out because they're one religion or another is very anti-American and very, in this case, anti-Swedish as well. The problem is it's common sense. Nothing is working. And so we do need to stop and take a pause and say, okay, wait a minute. Is our culture worth saving? Is there a reason to even exist as a country? Or is everything just equal and all the same? And in fact, in the case of Sweden, the Muslim culture of higher priority than the Swedish culture.
Man, that is that is an incredible dynamic going on over there. I don't think I ever realized that they had tried to do that, which is kind of a different stance of part of some of the other parts of Europe that you've talked about and visited, Glenn.
Yeah, well, Sweden is one of the most open and tolerant. They pride themselves on being citizens of the world. They always have. They've prided themselves. In some ways, they're very American, to where they feel that they have a responsibility to the world, and they want to make the world a better place, but they don't want to jam anything down anybody's throat. And so they really worked hard to welcome people from different countries, and really tried to give them absolutely everything. I'll tell you, I was in places today here in Sweden. I'm in Old Town, Stockholm now, which is one of the most beautiful places I have ever been. Compare that to where I was earlier today. I spent the afternoon in the Muslim neighborhoods that are surrounding this city, and quite honestly choking it off. And it is truly terrifying. we gathered crowds around us, and our security was a little on edge as I was doing, part of this documentary that we're working on for the Blaze. And as I'm standing and I'm talking about these places that they literally burned down to the ground, the crowd started coming around, and it was very unsettling. We all got onto the bus afterwards, and I said, anybody else a little freaked out? And all of us talked about it was so tense. Just speaking your mind could have set the whole place on fire. It's diametrically opposed to itself here, and the Swedes don't know what to do now.
Yeah, that's. These Nordic countries are homogenous, and then so in the last 15 to 20 years, with this new immigration policy they have, and with so many people coming from Africa and the Middle East, it's really changed their societies. It's really changed their cultures, and it's made them completely different countries. Is that what we want for us?
No,
I think we have to decide.
The thing is, I keep coming back to the point that I wish my family would have come with me. I didn't want them in the Middle East with me, and we're going back to the Middle East tomorrow. But I really don't think there's much time for these countries left. They just don't have the numbers of people anymore. You walk down the streets. I was in the Church of St. Nicholas. In fact, I'm standing right outside of the Church of St. Nicholas here in Stockholm. And as I came out afterwards, it is one of the most beautiful churches and completely unique. I've never seen architecture like this. I've never seen a city like this before. And I've traveled the world. This is completely unique. It's being erased. They are being taught that they don't have anything unique, that they are not a unique culture, that they're not their own culture, a special culture. And as I walked out down the steps, and I was surrounded by women in burqas where I could only see their eyes. It is falling apart quickly, and these churches will not be around.
Yeah. Now, you gave us a stat earlier. When did you say the Swedes would be outnumbered by immigrants? By what year?
Within the next 15 years.
I mean,
they will be the minority in their own
staggering
country in the next 15 years.
That is absolutely.
No, you don't understand. In fact, if I can ask if Ellen is around, is Ellen? Ellen. She just gave me a stat just a few minutes ago. We were recording something, and the numbers, I know they're expecting another 90,000 in the next month of immigrants, Muslim immigrants from the Middle East. This is the number one destination in all of Europe for the immigrants that are coming in. And the reason why is they have, Ellen, what is the number of immigrants in the last year? Okay, so 100. So it's been 100,000, and it's another 90,000 by the end of the year. Another 90,000. A million so far in Europe, and 100,000 here. This is the prime spot for people to come because everything is free. And as I was going out of the city, and I noticed the infrastructure. I mean, literally everything is free here. And what they're doing is they're coming from the Middle East, and they are selecting the states that will support them. And they are just, I mean, you wouldn't believe the unemployment numbers and the numbers of people that are just walking around the street, men just walking around the streets with nothing to do all day. And they're here using the immigration system. And it dawned on me, this is a global or a European Cloward and Piven strategy. They are collapsing Europe on its own weight.
Because there's been a lot of people who've spoken about the changes in culture, which of course are important. But when you have a society that basically gives away everything for free, and then you import millions of people who are largely poor and not contributing to those giant government programs, you can't keep your country afloat.
No, there's no way.
No,
there's no way to do it.
And here's the thing. If you look at the numbers, I was just reading in the Stockholm paper today about how the numbers just don't add up. The problem is it's much worse here than it even is in America. you are immediately called a racist. Hopefully tomorrow I'm going to be able to give you some information on our refugees. But there's some things going on that when I'm able to discuss them openly, you won't believe how bad things are here in Europe on what you're called and how they position things if you're standing up for Christians. It's absolutely remarkable. And it is, I believe, coordinated throughout the EU and with the UN. I'll get into it hopefully tomorrow, but the things that we have learned that the UN and the EU are doing to these countries, they are blocking them into collapse. And that's the problem. That's why fascism is going to rise. Just like you're from America and you love America, it doesn't mean that you think you're the best. You want to have Nazi soldiers in to, make sure that everybody knows America's the best. But it's great. We love it. The same thing with these countries, which are the size of our states. Some of them the size of our northeastern states. And so you're able to drive from one culture to another. They are not the same. And people don't want to lose that culture. And the EU is forcing them to lose their culture and forcing them to commit suicide. The people are not going to put up with it for very much longer.
Yeah, that's why it's not good. I mean, these regional or worldwide governments. This is what we've been afraid of and warning about and fighting against.
It's not even a worldwide government. It's the same thing that's happening with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is registering with people, and he is only a sign of what's to come. I was talking to an official here in Europe, and we were talking about Donald Trump off the record. We were talking about what he has said and what he has done, and we were discussing that if it's not Donald Trump, if America doesn't turn, the next choice will be even worse. Because that's what's happening here. When I get back, I'll show you some of the things that people in Sweden are saying. They are literally open, tolerant, caring people, literally begging their government, stop. Don't you understand? Yeah. You've got to listen to us because we are at the end of our rope, and our neighbors, our friends, we will turn to fascism because we love our country. And we've got to have this stop right now. And the EU is putting their foot on the throat of each of these countries. If you don't take X number of Muslims, they cut all of your funding. They boycott your country. It's bad.
And did you see the story that right next door, Norway is actually paying these refugees to leave?
Yes.
I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars if they'll just leave.
Here's the thing. In Norway, they just let people. They just deported 1,000 Muslims, which, of course, was immediately called racist. But they deported them last year. Crime after those 1,000 Muslims were deported, crime went down 37% in that area. Wow. 37%.
Glenn,
what's amazing is, even with those stats, they are called racists. You're a racist for even pointing that out.
Yep.
All right, Glenn, we're out of time. I was curious if you would be interested in implementing the policy of paying people to leave with Jeffy. Is that something we could do? Please.
I'd pay Jeffy to leave.
Get him out.
I don't know if there's enough money anywhere to pay people to go with Jeffy.
Okay, that's a good point.
Exactly.
All right, Glenn, thanks.
Be safe.
All right,
we'll be praying for you.
We will. Thanks, Glenn. And we'll get updates as we go forward of Glenn's jaunt all over the world as he does some really important work that, by the way, this audience is...
you are a big part of.
You're all of it, really.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for donating to the Nazarene Fund. It's now.mercury1.org is the address.
This podcast is brought to you by the visionaries at Overstock.com. Overstock believes that more voices make America a better place. Download the Overstock app from the App Store or Google Play.